The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, welcome everyone to today's Healthy Lifestyle webinar with the Denver Afterschool Alliance and the Alaska Afterschool Network. I want to thank you all for joining us for the webinar. This is Thomas with Alaska Afterschool Network, a program of the Alaska Children's Trust. Before we get started with today's webinar, there are a few things that we just wanted to let you know in terms of housekeeping. So we are using a new webinar platform system, so we are trying our best to navigate it. So please, if you're experiencing any type of challenge that you can't hear the webinar for some reason, please let us know, and we will make sure that we correct that. Today's webinar is being recorded for those who are unable to attend, and it looks like we have a few folks who are still signing in, so we're going to get started here in about 2 minutes. So we'll get started in about 2 minutes. All right, again, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Healthy Lifestyles, Empowering Youth in a Post-Legalized World. This is Thomas Hezarel with Alaska Afterschool Network, a program of the Alaska Children's Trust. We're thrilled to be able to bring this overview for you. We're excited that this is a training that will be offered at this year's Alaska Afterschool Conference, pre-conference on November 6th. This is really a chance for us to give an overview and information to you folks about what the curriculum has to offer and about our goals for implementation with the curriculum. On the line today as one of our presenters is Maxine. She is with the Denver Afterschool Alliance. We'll give her an opportunity to introduce herself shortly. But what I would like to do first is have folks on the line, if you could introduce yourself, your name, your organization, and the community that you're with. So if we could do a quick roll call, and to be able to mute yourself and unmute yourself, there should be a button in the corner that looks like a microphone or a microphone to speak in. Just go ahead and unmute yourself. You can also unmute yourself if you're on your phone. If you're calling in on your phone, please do not put the call on hold because we will hear your lovely hold music. So we're going to go ahead and start off with a roll call. If we could, maybe Anna, you could start us off.
Hello, this is Anna McGovern with the Alaska Afterschool Network, and I am based in Anchorage.
Good morning. This is Eliza Muse with the Marijuana Education Program as part of the Department of Health and Social Services. Thanks.
This is Terrence Robbins with Residential Youth Care in Ketchikan.
And Lindsay, Stacy, and Tia, if you wouldn't mind, please unmuting yourself and introducing yourself, name, organization, community you're with. All right, Lindsay does not have a microphone, so if you would just, Lindsay, put it in the chat box and we'll introduce for you. Thank you. All right. Well, as folks are working on that, we will get rolling. So we want to introduce our speaker. Before we introduce our speaker, though, I'd like to give a chance to have Eliza Muse with the state of Alaska just share out our intent behind today's webinar and bringing this curriculum to state, and just a little bit of its connection with the Positive Youth Development After School Grant Program, which many of you are grantees of.
Great, thanks, Thomas. Well, as awardees of this grant funding, I'm sure you all are very familiar with the RFP and your proposals and the funding, the derivation of the funding for this program. And as you all know, there are important public health and safety concerns raised by the legalization of adult use and establishment of the legal marijuana marketplace here in Alaska. There are concerns specifically related to adolescent health, including youth access, initiation, youth and adult marijuana impaired driving, and health problems associated with heavy marijuana use. We know it is illegal for anyone under 21 years to possess, use, or distribute marijuana, and youth caught having marijuana may be referred to the juvenile justice system, which can carry additional penalties. The Positive Youth Development After School program will support the use of an outcome-based curricula to address marijuana use. While some of you have already identified a curriculum, today is an opportunity to learn what other communities who also have legalized marketplaces are utilizing. Healthy Lifestyles is a marijuana awareness and education curriculum that empowers youth to think critically about marijuana. You'll learn today that this curriculum was created by the Yes Institute on behalf of the Denver After School Alliance in response to their legalized marketplace. This curriculum gives trusted adults the instructional strategies, hands-on materials, and facts to help them facilitate activities that let youth explore relevant marijuana topics. And because each session is driven by youth, they leave with the information and skills they need to make positive decisions for themselves about marijuana. I'm really excited to be part of this conversation and to answer any questions that you all might have as funded programs on questions related to this curriculum and other sorts of curriculum that you potentially might also be using in your after-school settings, knowing that at some point as a grant program, we are going to need to have some very specific outcomes related, place-based and related to marijuana here for our state to ensure that our policymakers and leadership can better understand exactly how we are using these dollars as in part of supporting this grant program. So thanks, Thomas.
Great, thank you, Eliza. So now we're going to prepare to switch over to Maxine. So we're going to just take 1 second as I navigate our ability to allow Maxine to be our speaker. All right, Maxine, you should be able to be off mute now. You can take it over for us. So Maxine is the Director of Out-of-School Time Initiatives with the Office of Children Affairs in Denver. She runs the Denver After School Alliance. That has been a huge support to the Alaska After School Network and to the state of Alaska as we really thought through the implementation of the new Positive Youth Development After School Grant Program. So thank you again, Maxine, for allowing us to lean into you and sharing your insights on this curriculum.
Thomas, thanks for having me. So again, as Thomas said, I'm Maxine. I'm one of the co-founders of the Denver After School Alliance, which is our after-school intermediary. I also work for the City and County of Denver. So just to give you a quick little snapshot of how we got to this point where we actually developed a curriculum and why. Back in 2015, we legalized marijuana here in Denver, and the mayor had wanted a portion of the funds raised from the special city sales tax, because there's state sales tax, there's city sales tax, all that kind of good stuff. But the portion of the city sales tax was supposed to be directed towards education. When we first started receiving funding, it went to more of a citywide or a statewide campaign that did not work, frankly. And so in January of 2015, the funding was given to our office, the Office of Children's Affairs, because we had already had a grant process to fund after school and summer programs, very typical after school and summer programs. When we got that money, when we first got that money, I was like, we really need to do something to help support our after school provider field in navigating this new landscape of legalized marijuana. So at that time, we worked with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Denver, and we created a very, very, very short curriculum that was really more focused on positive youth development and building those social emotional skills about how to make good choices, right? And we had one little small curriculum piece that was actually about marijuana. After we did that pilot that very, very first summer, we got a lot of good data back, which basically said that kids really didn't even know the legal age to use marijuana, and they had a lot of questions, and they had a lot of there were a lot of myths, right, about marijuana. And so we convened our youth service providers and got them around the table, and what they really said was, we got the positive youth development stuff down, we got the social emotional stuff down. What we really need and what we really want is more information about marijuana specifically. And so after that, we partnered with the Yes Institute to develop a full-blown curriculum, which you're about to see a little snippet of here. Can you please advance the slides? I don't think I could control them myself. So as was already mentioned, the Healthy Lifestyles is a 10-hour or 10-session curriculum that can be done specifically. We started really with rising sixth graders, so the transition during summer between elementary and middle school, and have used it really all throughout the middle school years. And it can be done in a couple of different fashions, but it is a 10-session curriculum. They're 50-minute sessions. They're specific about marijuana. And one thing we heard loud and clear from our youth and our youth service providers is that kids want the real facts, the good and the bad. And again, when it's delivered to them by a trusted adult where they can have real conversations about the good and the bad, and they're surrounded by other additional tools and resources and supports to help them make good decisions for themselves. That's what's worked best for us in our community. And so really the target audience, again, is middle school youth or rising sixth graders is what we have said, because summer has been a great space for us to deliver all 10 hours of the curriculum, all the way through basically the transition between middle and high school as well. We've also used it in both an after-school setting, which is what it was really designed for, and is created with all kinds of different hands-on activities, so that I'm not sure how it is in Alaska, but here a middle school participant really doesn't have to be there unless they want to be there. So we had to make the curriculum very engaging and fun so that kids would want to really stay and be a part of it. And a lot of it is about youth voice and youth-led activities and youth choice and all of those good things, because they make the curriculum really come to life. And that was really, really important for us in Denver, is that with that particular age group, they really don't need to be in a program. They have, they're old enough to make choices. And so we wanted it to be something that was very engaging and dynamic. We've also used it in a school setting as well, and it works well there as well. Some of the issues that we've had in a school setting is that bigger class sizes, and so we've really had to, bring in a different adult volunteers, et cetera, so that the lessons could be done in more smaller groups, because that's how they're done best. So the trusted facilitator, I think, is the biggest thing, because again, it's about being able to have those real conversations with youth, and it's all infused with social emotional learning. And I know that several folks in Alaska use the YPQA. The lessons are also built based on the PQA. So if you guys are using that as your continued quality improvement system, it's completely aligned. And as I already mentioned, 100% of the activities are really driven by youth, and the materials help them get out of their seats and are having very active, fun lessons. Can you go ahead and advance the slide, please? So again, this is a little bit more about some of the design elements. It's based about, you know, that relationship that you guys already have with your kids. Facts first, both the good and the bad. That was one thing we heard loud and clear from our youth, is that they want to know the good and the bad. And really it's about helping to give them the information that they need so that they could make good choices for themselves. Go ahead and advance. So it has three different components. One is a facilitator's training, which we are sending a trainer to Alaska to be there live and in person so that you guys could dig into every single lesson and really understand how best to deliver it. It has a great facilitator's guide that we'll get into in a minute that is really kind of step-by-step everything you need to know to be able to deliver the curriculum. And then it also comes with a curriculum kit that has all of the materials in it ready and available, so it's easy for you to just grab, have everything labeled, and get set and ready to deliver the lessons. If you could advance. This is kind of what it looks like, and if you click on the, so it's super simple that with your objectives, how much time it takes you to do the lesson, what the materials are, what the prep is needed ahead of time. And if you could click on that, yeah, then it kind of gives you like the scaffolding of how you break it up, how you open with a warm welcome or an opening ritual. Not sure what you guys call them there, but again, it's just how you open it, then what that engaged activity is and lesson is, and it kind of gives you the breakdown of the times to be able to do that. Can you advance that as well, please, Thomas? And takes you through it. And then every single lesson has a reflection and a feedback portion, again, in alignment with the PQA and with what we call our 3 signature SEL practices, right? So that you're starting with an opening, you're doing an engaged activity, and then you're ending with a reflection. And then there's also some optional activities. And the reason we built in the optional activities is at least here, we have a lot of consistency in retaining our students. And so we wanted to build different activities in to provide choice. If some students have already had the first lesson, they can do the optional activity as a second lesson. Can you advance, please? So what I've kind of already covered this, but one thing that was really important for us in our community is that after-school providers actually helped us develop the content that they wanted to see in the curriculum based on what they were hearing and learning from their kids. And every single time we have done a session, like I said, we'll either do it first semester of the school year or you know, we do it all throughout the school year and then at the end of the summer, but we are always collecting information and feedback from our provider community and from our youth, and then making small tweaks to the curriculum. So you guys are going to get the most current and up-to-date content available. And again, based on what's working and what's not working when they're delivering the curriculum. So it really helps to, again, put youth in charge of their decision-making by giving them the skills that they need to make good choices for themselves and the facts, frankly. And those are the key pieces that have helped this curriculum to be successful here in Denver. I'd say and again, when the training happens in November, one of the things that, and I could only speak to this a little bit because I've never actually delivered this curriculum, I sit in a different seat, is that being prepared to answer questions yourself, because kiddos will automatically say, Miss, when was the last time you used marijuana, or things like that. So making sure that you understand and that you have organizational agreements, and everybody does it different. I know a lot of organizations have like a don't ask, don't tell policy. So like I'm not going to ask you about use, and nor will I answer questions about use. One of the other things I think is really important, and again, I don't know if this is specific here to Denver or if this is the same in your context. A lot of our youth service providers are just young adults themselves, and they're still learning about all of these different things. So what we've done is have a lot of open communication and a place for them to call to get information and to really just be able to say, you know, that's a great question. Let me get back to you on that. And then being available as a resource for them if they're struggling with how to answer something. But that's really all I had for you guys. I'm happy to dig into questions and take things specific, but I think we want to wait for that, right, Thomas?
Yeah. Maxine, thank you for the kind of overview of a few kind of points to clarify. First off, for folks who are not familiar, the YPQA or the PQA that she was talking about is the Youth Program Quality Assessment tool that several programs are starting to use. Is one that we will be sharing more information about as well over the next year as we look to really help programs on their quality improvement work. So if you don't know what that is okay. For those like Tia, who I know are utilizing that in Boys and Girls Club, they are well versed in it. Maxine, if you could maybe share a little bit more about what are the types of after-school program settings that are utilizing the curriculum right now?
Everyone, our Boys and Girls Clubs, our YMCAs, our Girls Incorporated, which is a girls-specific program. We have small programs, large programs. Really, anybody who is serving middle school youth can use the curriculum, and we have about 20+ organizations here in Denver who are using it. So Great. It could be your small organizations and your large organizations. And again, the thing about our funding, and I'm not sure how different this is with your guys', is these are typical. This is just an added enhancement to what they're already doing. We didn't make our grant specific to marijuana prevention. It's typical after school and summer programs. We added this additional element because it was a request from our provider field that they needed help in this new landscape. I mean, I'm not sure. I've been to Alaska once. It was beautiful. Loved it. Wish I was going again. But I mean, it really has changed our landscape here in Denver, where there are, you know, marijuana shops on every corner and kids are asking questions and different things like that. So we answered a call from our provider community to want to be able to deliver something that would help kids understand this new landscape. Great.
Thank you, Maxine. The next part I was going to ask you about is, could you maybe share a little bit more about the impacts the curriculum has had? And I do have your 101 overview as one of the handouts that's inside of the GoToWebinar dashboard there. And if you'd like, I can pull it up and talk, if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing a little bit about what the impact you've seen with youth and in programs.
Sure, that's great. That's a great question, and appreciate you having that overview there and available. And the nice thing about this is, again, our funding was directed to areas that, you know, were impacted by this. But one of the things that has been most helpful is to really understand that kids have a lot of ideas out there about, you know, the good and the bad of marijuana, and so there were a lot of myths. And that's the one thing I think that the curriculum has really helped us to do, is really provide the facts. And you know, our young ones are smart. They get it, and they can make good choices for themselves as well if they have the facts, both the good and the bad. So I think that was one of the really big things. The other thing is that this is a really, really simple fact that we learned, is that kids don't even know the legal age to use marijuana, or, you know, and so like some of those very, very basic, simple things, when we did the curriculum the first time, the kids weren't even aware of. And so again, just getting that information out there about the facts and has been really, really helpful and impactful for the youth in our community. We also have some other new data that kind of shows that it is positively impacting lowering use, but that, again, was never the intent of this curriculum. The intent of the curriculum was to raise awareness and to educate kids about the facts. Does that help?
Great, yes. Thank you, Maxine. And just wanted to take a minute and do a little bit of dive into the curriculum again. So you got a chance to see the curriculum in the slide presentation. But again, just wanted to kind of outline, one of the handouts there is the kind of overview of the 101. So to give you a chance to kind of really look to see how user-friendly the curriculum is. And I was wondering, Maxine, if you could talk a little bit about what have you seen for successes in terms of program providers being trained in the curriculum? Has it been a site director that goes to get trained and then shares it with their staff, or has it been directly the person implementing the curriculum?
Oh, it's best to me if it's a person directly implementing the curriculum. We've done it both ways, to be perfectly honest. We've done it both ways. We are trying to, we're at the place right now where we're trying to start developing video content that can really help do some train the trainer stuff when it can't be a live in-person training. But I think the live in-person training is always best, so that with the people who are actually going to be delivering the content, so that it gives them a feel of how to do the activities right there and then how to make small tweaks and adjustments for different groups of sizes and all that kind of stuff. The one thing I would highly recommend is that you do the lessons in order, because they build upon each other. And I know that we had one organization who was trying to do them a little out of order, and it didn't work as well. So making sure that they're done in order, because they are sequenced, is important. And again, I think it could work both ways, because the lesson planning materials are super easy to follow. But in my personal opinion, it's always best if you can have some of the people who are going to be there. And honestly, if you're building more master trainers, like if organizations are sending somebody who can really understand the curriculum and then help other people, staff retention is an issue in Denver and Colorado in the youth services field, and we have a lot of staff turnover at different places. So having more than one person train, and specifically somebody who can help kind of train others, is, I think, really important as well.
Great, thank you, Maxine. So we wanted to talk a little bit about our plan here in Alaska on rolling out this curriculum. So again, this curriculum is not a required curriculum of the Positive Youth Development After School Grantee Program. This is really something that we're bringing as a resource. So folks on the call know, this grant program, PDAP, as some folks have started calling it, the Positive Youth Development After School Grant Program, was from a legislative, was cured from legislation that happened two legislative sessions ago, and was really designed and thought of with our legislators and the Department of Health, really on an opportunity to address substance misuse among adolescents. And really the desire from our legislator was to engage kids in positive opportunities that build protective factors and increase resilience skills against things like substance abuse, but also a desire to have an opportunity to address those myths and facts around substance use in Alaska. And so that is why we're bringing this curriculum. As Eliza mentioned, it is a direction ultimately that we may see the grant program go, and looking to really identify some specific outcomes around substance use. So we want to equip programs with a tool and resource. That's, I think, the greatest part about this curriculum, is it really has everything you need, both from the curriculum to the actual supply kits, so there is nothing to worry about. In regards to our implementation of the curriculum here in Alaska, so on November 6th, during our pre-conference institute down in Juneau, we will be offering this as one of the trainings. We will have a master trainer up from Denver. Myself and Anna McGovern from the Afterschool Network will then also be trained as master trainers in the curriculum to have in-state support, so we're not having to call 2 time zones off whenever we have a challenge with implementation. The kind of goal during that training, it will be a 5-hour workshop. The workshop itself is $35 to register. Upon completion of the workshop, we will have an ability to sign an agreement for programs that would like to implement. When you sign the agreement to implement, what you are saying is you're agreeing that you would like to implement the full 10 modules of the curriculum. You will receive a free licensing package to be able to implement the curriculum, as well as the material supply bin. So your program will be receiving approximately about, I think it works out to about $500 to $600 in material and curriculum supports, free at cost. So we'll be providing that through the sponsorship of the Alaska Department of Health and Social Services. Marijuana Education and Treatment Fund. So we're going to help coordinate that. We then, the network, will be the technical assistance provider to really help programs think through the implementation. What are some of the challenges that you may face, especially for programs that we know are working in rural Alaska, where the youth numbers may be smaller. So that is kind of our plan with implementation of the curriculum. What we'd like to do now is really open up the webinar to be able to do any type of questions. So I'm going to switch us over to allow everyone to be able to share here. For those of you who do not have the ability to speak on the webinar, you can also ask a question inside of the question box. And I see one from Rick. As far as you know right now, will Fairbanks be represented at the training in Juneau? Off the top of my head, Rick, I do not know. Maxine, we're going to get you off of mute here. There you go, Maxine, you're off mute.
Thank you. The one other thing I forgot to mention, if you don't mind really quick, is that organizations have actually implemented the curriculum all a little bit differently. Some may do 1 hour a week for 10 weeks. Some will do a lesson a day for 2 weeks and be done. So it can be done many different ways, and whatever way works best for each organization. That was the one thing I forgot to share.
And Anna asked a question about its alignment to the YBRS, our Youth Risk Behavioral Survey. Maxine, are you able to field that, or Eliza, are you able to field that?
So, well, Maxine, you might want to go first, but I'm under the impression you guys use the Monitoring the Future survey as your statewide survey among traditional high school students and maybe middle school too, to ask.
This is a question that is better set for Daniel Reed, who is our main person on this, but so I'm not sure if I could do this justice, but what I understand is really different. And actually, what's different about the survey that is used Colorado-wide is it asks about use, student use. Our assessment that goes with this curriculum does not ask about use. And so I don't know if alignment is the right word, because again, this is not it is a prevention program, but it's really educational awareness curriculum. It's not, we have never ever said, nor will we ever say, that by a kid taking this course that they're not going to use marijuana. We would never do that, right? Because this is just helping to build their education, their awareness, and arm them with the tools and resources that they need to make good decisions for themselves. That, I don't know if that really answers your question completely.
Maxine, I think that's a really great response, and I really appreciate that. This is Eliza with the Department of Health and Social Services. The YRBS asks, of course, questions around use, and this is the population that we ask these questions of our traditional high school and alternative high school students. And so we don't have a middle school sample right now that's standardized across the state. We do ask questions about risk of harm and also parental perception, parental and peer kind of norming questions around, thinking if your parents would be disappointed or if your peers think that it is cool or not cool. But and then of course the use questions, but I really appreciate kind of the relevance of this curriculum in relation to the use and the behaviors piece. And that's really important, I think, as part of this grant program to really emphasize that. So thank you.
Great, and we've had a couple more questions come in. One of the questions, I'll be kind of we'll be asking them here as they come in. So one of the questions was from Rick. He asked, are school districts using this curriculum? So I guess I think Rick's question is about in-school time. This curriculum is developed for the out-of-school time hours. That is the intentional use for it. It's not trying to insert another plugin inside of the school day. But would love to open that question up to Maxine. Have you had any school districts attempt to use the curriculum during the in-school hours?
So we did actually. We piloted it with our school district this last semester. They were already doing some kind of a health class where they were trying to use some other curriculum, and so they used this as a pilot and absolutely loved it. I think the challenges that they found because again, it's just different. This is not a standard PowerPoint discussion type of a curriculum. It is a very hands-on, active curriculum that gets youth very involved, right? And so that was a little bit of a challenge in the classroom setting when you have one adult and 30 kids, right? After school is a different time. You have smaller groups, those kinds of things. But they adapted it and they made it work during the school day. And as a matter of fact, Julie, who is going out to the conference, actually used the curriculum in a school day setting. And she is a prevention specialist. I mean, her background is really around substance abuse prevention type stuff. This was a whole new eye-opening experience for her to be able to do stuff in a different after-school style way. So it has been used in a school district setting. It's not what the intended purpose was, but in Denver, they want to continue to be doing that as well. And again, I think it helps our reach a little bit in terms of making sure that more middle schoolers are able to use the curriculum.
Great, thank you for that, Maxine. So Rick would love to think through that more with you offline.
Wonderful.
Tia had a question, is in regards to licensing for the curriculum per site or per organization. And so, Tia, the license is based actually, we are doing the licensing based off of per program site. Because the license is actually based on per student, we are giving each program site the intended amount of supplies in each curriculum bin is for, I believe, up to 25 students inside of the bin. So each curricula or each program site, regardless of if they are running 5 kids or 25 kids, will receive a license per the program site for 25. If a program's running more than 25 kids, that is, again, something that we can have a discussion about with that. So it is per organization or per program site. If an organization like Boys and Girls Club, where you're with, Tia, is implementing the curriculum at multiple program sites, you will receive the license to cover all program sites that are implementing, and it will just be an agreement signed per program site. It will also cover the cost of the supplies with that. Year 2 of implementation of the curriculum as well, the actual cost of the license reduces down to half the cost. And so we will work on covering that cost as well for implementation. So that's something the Denver, or the Yes Institute and the Denver After School Alliance has been very supportive of us in our ability to implement this. Because we are really, I believe, Maxine, if I'm speaking correctly, we're the first out of Colorado to implement.
Yes, you are, and we're excited to have you guys.
Super. Well, thank you again for this great partnership. Stacy wrote a comment about looking at would have to implement the entire curriculum or be able to adapt it to the needs of the community you serve. The goal for implementation is an implementation of the full curriculum, and as Maxine said, there's a lot of flexibility. Some programs that they have in Denver are implementing it within an entire week. Others are doing it over the course of the semester or over the course of the school year or over the course of a summer. Some of that is what we will be looking at exploring. We know several of the grantees who are part of the Positive Youth Development After School Grant Program that are looking at utilizing this curriculum are really trying to figure out what that would look like inside of their context, because they are working frequently in kind of drop-in program settings. Through my discussion with others at the Yes Institute in Denver is that they have several programs that are implementing where they have different students every day. And they've been able to have success with implementation. So some of that is what we'll be thinking through at the Pre-Conference Institute, and part of what Anna and I will be available for that TA support around it. Because the curriculum is licensed, that we do not see the ability for programs to lift chunks of the content out because it is copyrighted curriculum. So we want to respect those copyrights and their intellectual property on there. So we can happily think more with it, Stacy, and gladly can take some of that offline. All right, and I'm going to ask any other questions the group has in turn to Maxine, to Eliza, or myself. All right. The last kind of bits that I want to say is, again, please remember, if you're interested in the curriculum, please register for the Alaska After-School Conference Pre-Conference Institute on Healthy Lifestyles. The training itself will be November 6th. It will start at 8:30 in the morning. Conference registration, so your kind of sign-in will start at 8, right at Centennial Hall. So it'll go from 8:30 until 2 o'clock. There will be a working lunch that is provided as part of that registration cost. Upon completion of the workshop, folks will be able to then sign up to be able to receive the curriculum license, the full curriculum, as well as their material supply bin with costs covered by the Department of Health. For those of you who are new to our conference, because I think several of you on this call are new to our conference, we will, after that pre-conference workshop, we will have kind of 2 different options happening. In the afternoon, starting at 2:30, there will be field trips going out to 3 to 4 different program sites in Juneau. Transportation will be provided. Those are free field trips associated with registration. So you'll be able to go out and get to check out actual programming happening live and in action. For those of you who are coordinators or grant administrators for the Healthy Lifestyle, or for the Positive Youth Development After School Grant Program, we will be having a coordinators, a managers meeting to be able to get a chance to network between grantees and overview expectations with the grant. Eliza and myself will be facilitating that meeting, and so that will happen in that afternoon. The main conference is November 7th through 8th at Centennial Hall. There will be over 40 different workshops for you to select from that are all designed to help support the implementation of after-school programming. If any of you are interested still in registering more folks, registration is open right up to the day of the conference start. For those of you who are non-positive youth development after-school grantees, scholarships are available to help cover cost of travel to the conference. And we are really looking forward to having everyone there and getting a chance to connect and network with you all in the rest of our after-school time field. Without any further ado, I'm not seeing any more questions coming into the question box, and no one's taken themselves off mute to ask any more questions. I just want to, again, thank Maxine for her overview of the presentation. I'm going to ask if you have further questions to please direct those questions to me, and I can field those to Denver if there are anything we can't ask or can't answer for you. But if you would please have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will see you soon in Juneau. Thank you very much again to Maxine from the Denver After School Alliance for sharing an overview of the Healthy Lifestyles curriculum.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Maxine. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.